Welcome back to the Milestone Moment, where we take top producing agents to ask them about their story and what got them to where they are today. Today we have Adam Cothes with eXp Real Estate and White Glove Services. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Did I say White Glove properly?
White Glove Hiring.
White Glove Hiring, okay. Well, so tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate to start off here.
You know, I never meant to be a real estate agent. It was totally by accident. I had worked in book publishing for 7 or 8 years and worked my way up to be a sales manager. And unfortunately, that company went out of business. And I found myself really good at sales and unemployed.
Right, okay. Which maybe some realtors find it that way. But
Yes, yes. And so I ended up going to a job fair and going around in a circle. Do you want to sell siding? No. Do you want to sell cell phones? No. Do you want to sell leads to real estate agents? I guess. Yeah. So I went to work for Trulio.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yep. So I used to call real estate agents for a living. Did that for about a year in downtown Bellevue. Had to commute hour and a half from Bonnie Lake.
Yes.
You know, an hour and a half home because I took the train and the bus and I walked. So it was like planes, trains, and automobiles. Anyway, got that job, was doing really well. And then I was like, wait a minute, that guy's making how much money selling real estate? Yeah. I own a house. How hard is it? Yeah. So got my license.
Nice.
And struggled.
Okay.
It was not as easy as it looked from a distance.
Right.
But
not buying Trulio leads probably.
Not immediately, but eventually I did. That was what got me going. Is I had the job and I had the license. Yeah. I was doing weird stuff like blogs and whatever. I was trying to SEO it. I was like, I don't know. I didn't know how to do opens or calls or anything. I was just like, why don't I buy the product I'm selling?
Right.
And so I started dropping $1,000 a month on a credit card, mind you, on a credit card. And the phone was ringing. I was sneaking away from the desk like, hey, you want to see a house tonight?
Yeah.
And anyway, ended up building my pipeline. And the first 2 deals that I got was from my buddy that I went and did lunch with. We used to have sushi. Okay. And he goes, hey, man, I want to buy a house up in the Highlands. And I was like, where's the Highlands? I don't even know. What, turns out there's a few Highlands around here. And he goes, but I got a problem. I was like, what's the problem? He goes, I need to sell the house first. I was like,
I guess
what? Let's go. So I got my first listing, my first buyer from my buddy, and I quit.
That's it.
I was like, I quit. And mind you, I was 30 grand in debt. Okay. And charging everything.
Right.
And
just
I was like,
running as fast as you can.
I just couldn't do both. It was too much. So I was like, you know what? We're going to make a go of this. Yeah. And so I quit and I started cold calling, working, like hustling, doing the paid leads, canceled, expired, for sale by owner. I was working 70 hours a week, building my database, doing every little thing I could do. I didn't have a mentor. I just figured it out. Yeah. And ended up selling 20 homes that year and got Rookie of the Year for Keller Williams Kirkland.
Okay.
They were all little ones, like 250 or whatever.
Sure,
but at the time, I was like, I'm rich. Yeah. You know, and so
I'm a success.
Yeah, overnight. I was like, I'm not broke. I didn't lose my house. And then bottom line is from there, I just kept trucking. It's been 12 years. I've up, down. I've had 3 teams. It's just been a roller coaster. And I've been a top producer the whole time. And just going with the punches.
I love that. Well, you have a very unique story, obviously, from individual to having a team, and then maybe back to kind of tell me a little bit about that journey between individual and then a team, and then kind of now what you're doing kind of today.
Well, I would say that's really the big turning point in my life was when during COVID I had been doing these open houses consistently for 5-6 years. Yeah. And I landed this one client who right before COVID worked at Meta. And he posted on his company forum how great I was, and the phone started ringing. And it was like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And so during COVID, I was just at home, just selling $50 million a year with inbound phone calls, just going crazy. Wow. And I had a showing agent, I had an assistant, and I had a virtual assistant. Yeah. And then I started just hiring more people, and all of a sudden I looked up and I had a team of 24 people. And I'm like, how'd this happen? This was not in the plan.
Right.
And so it was great until it wasn't. And that's when everything turned for me. And I think my phase, almost call it phase 3 of my career started.
Sure.
And that's when I had to look up and I owed the IRS $300,000. And my team kind of was going elsewhere because they raised rates. I had this big team and I was doing fine. I was selling a ton of homes. Yeah. But my new agents were not because they raised rates to 7%. Sure. And it was a hard time to be a new agent.
And then you're
now I'm stuck
team
with
and
all the
managing
employees and Zillow and all the stuff I'm paying for, and
Right.
I'm like, oh, by the way, I want to pay my employees, so I didn't pay the IRS, and I'm like, I was broke again, and I'm like, I'm one of the top agents in town, and I'm broke.
How is this happening? Yeah.
So I had to go, and with tears running down my face, I had to fire everybody, and I went down to just me and my 3 overseas virtual assistants.
Okay.
And I said, hey, what can I do to earn the income and support my family and be that top producer? And I said, you know what? I'm going to love up on my past clients, and I'm going to go super, super hard on open houses.
Okay.
Because I already had 10 years of that.
Sure.
You know, and so
Back to the tried and true.
Back to the tried and true, but this time we're going luxury.
Yep.
So I don't touch an open house under $3 million.
Okay.
And I'm doing 4 to 8 opens a month.
Okay.
And my conversion is through the roof.
Okay.
And I've tailored my business to be what higher net worth individuals looking for, which is solutions on loans and rates and off-market homes, and I know every builder in the neighborhood, and I've got all the options that they need.
Right.
And so that has been revolutionary. And so I was able to pull out of a team that basically crashed and burned to 40 to 50 million a year, just boom, flying high again. And now the crazy thing is it unlocked a new business opportunity.
Sure. Now tell us about, good segue into your white glove services.
White glove hiring, So basically what happened was friends kept coming to me going, hey, I could probably use an assistant too. And I've had virtual assistants now for 6 or 7 years.
Sure.
And so I was like, well,
I have a process, I have a system.
I'm pretty busy. I'm going to have to charge you. And so it became a full-fledged business. And we've been doing that over the course of the past year and a half.
Wow.
And helped several dozen of my friends, and it's become a great business. It's a 6-figure business for me.
Okay.
And it's very boutique. We don't do a ton of marketing, but it's one of those things where we find people in the Philippines who are experienced, 3 to 10 years experience in the real estate space, who are not knuckleheads.
Okay. I love that.
No knuckleheads allowed. Right? And so they've got to have some critical thinking. They need to understand how to do paperwork. A lot of them are transaction coordinators or listing managers. Sure. They're doing database stuff. They're doing Canva, marketing, all that stuff. So it's great because the average, let's put it this way, agents only have to conquer a few milestones. Number one, how do I make a little bit of money for my family?
Sure.
Number two, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, I need an assistant.
Right.
And when we get to that point, they usually are not quite rolling financially enough to afford that American assistant.
Yeah, and or have the ability to train them or understand exactly how to do that.
They don't have the systems to plug that assistant into, and so we come in and we help them kind of lay out some basic systems if they're a little newer.
Yeah.
If they're a team or somebody that's established, then we'll plug them into their established systems. But it's kind of, it's a systems overhaul. A lot of people are, I guess that you could say my biggest strategic advantages have always been prospecting and systems.
Okay.
You know, I run my business with a database. Yeah. I use a CRM. I have a day where I generate business. I have a day where I follow up with business. And
Theme days, I love this.
That's kind of like how you run almost any small business. The problem that most agents face, even if they're very successful, is they don't budget in lead generation.
Yeah.
Therefore, they look up, they have 2 busy months, they look up, and they're broke.
Right.
And then they have 2 busy months, they look up, they're broke.
Yeah.
And if just using the CRM alone could probably smooth a lot of that out. So that's what I coach people to do. It's not like a rule, but I'm like, we suggest that. Here's a virtual assistant to help you.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, you've touched on a lot of things already. The premise of the show, and you may have already kind of talked a little bit about this. What is your milestone moment when it all changed for you in real estate? Was that going from a team to VA?
Yeah, I would say it all changed for me. Well, can I have 2?
Yes, and you have multiple moments because there are
My
times.
first one was when the company I worked for went out of business, the book publishing company.
Makes sense,
and I was thrust into the big bad world and had to go figure it out. And that's what got me into real estate. If I hadn't gone to that job fair and just said, you know what, I got to make something of myself.
So the first moment was getting to Trulia, which is in the industry that you're in.
That's right.
Now.
And the next one was when the federal government decided to raise rates on me and crush my dreams of having a real estate team. All of a sudden now I'm financially better off. My income tripled when I
with
killed
less
that team.
overhead, yeah.
That's the dirty little secret of a lot of these teams. We love our teams,
Yep.
but they're not always as profitable as people would think.
Right. There's
And
so much overhead, so much goes into it,
overhead,
so
and
much
the team
management.
owner doesn't always keep as much as people think.
Right.
So when they did that to me, and part of it was luck. I mean, it was timing.
Yeah.
When life happened to me, I was able to pay off all my debt, work hard, focus, double down on what's working, do all of these lead generation activities that I would teach agents to do.
Sure.
And just thrive. And so I can only be grateful that I've had that hardship, because now I have a business that's very simple. I can sell 40 or 50 million a year in 30 hours a week.
Wow.
And then I got another business that's crushing it, helping agents across the U.S. hire affordable talent.
I love that.
So I'm glad I got punched in the face.
Yes. I mean, it worked out. You obviously kind of picked yourself up, and you're better for it. What, we have around 16,000 or so, like I mentioned to you, that follow this show, and a lot of them are newer agents, probably, working with you on the VA side, but what's some advice you'd give to a newer agent trying to kind of get going, obviously?
So the advice I would give to a newer agent is that they have to determine one or two lead generation pillars that they can put a crazy amount of time into.
Okay.
Not a little bit of time. Now, we love our part-time agents that can work with family and friends, but if someone wants to really make a go of it, they need to pick two things. If it was me, it would probably be open houses and probably video or social media.
And go all in.
And you go all in. We're talking about, when I teach my open house class, they come back and they say, it didn't work. And I say, how many open houses did you do last month? They go, 2. Right. And I'm like, no, 16.
Okay.
Not forever.
Right.
Not forever, but let's say for 2 months,
just grind.
We go 4 every week.
Yep.
And we just crush it.
Yep.
And then eventually you get some money. So that's what I would say for a new agent, is they need to throw more activities, but not 12 things that they do poorly.
Okay.
One or two things, if they want to learn how to cold call like I did when I was a new agent, or door knock, or social media, or YouTube channel, or, but open houses, in my opinion, are the lowest hanging fruit, because people are coming in and they're ready to buy. And so that really is something they should.
Hugely.
But here's the thing, that advice can apply to your more seasoned agents too.
Sure.
Your more seasoned agents are making money, but they're kind of just stagnant, because they're not generating new opportunities. They're waiting for the phone to ring. So imagine if your new agent used their CRM, not new agent, your established agent used their CRM, and they actually went out and did something new. Bought some leads or did some open houses. That person's gonna have fresh life in their business.
Yeah. Well, I guess, tell me a little bit about what brought you to EXP and how that model is in your world, or is that just kind of the name behind Adam Cothes and you just run your own thing? Or tell me a little bit about how that works.
EXP's been great to me. I've been over here for going on 6 years now.
Okay.
It was one of my mentors had joined EXP, and it was like, oh, this is the future. And it's been great. And so what I like about the company is that it's a virtual-based model that essentially runs on a lower overhead and allows me to run my business with less capital going to the brokerage. And they still provide great services. We have a luxury division. My listings are on Robb Report, Wall Street Journal, Mansions Global. So it's not a jinky deal.
Right.
I personally take advantage of another one of their programs called Revenue Share, which allows me to reach out to some of my fellow agents. I'm not like a hardcore recruiter, but what I do is I basically just pour into my friends and I help people around me. And if they're looking to make a change, happy to bring them over to my brokerage. I have 207 agents I've brought over to EXP.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And that pays me a solid 6-figure income as well each year.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Now, if somebody wanted to get involved in white glove hiring, how would somebody kind of get involved in that?
whiteglovehiring.com. Would love to have an introductory call, see if hiring a low-cost overseas employee might be right for them.
Cool. And is that normally they can hire multiple, or how does it work?
Most people are going to start with one, but then I have a few clients that have 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. That's awesome.
Usually the verticals that we're hiring for is going to be admin.
Yep.
Marketing or sales.
I love that.
Sales is the hardest, as you know. I mean, it's hard enough for Americans to do that. Yeah. But I do have a caller that's calling through my farm, my geographic farm, where we do mailers, and and they're also calling some of my past clients to invite them to an event.
I love that.
So easy kind of stuff, but I would say I reserve hard calls for myself.
Okay. And then they would have kind of some hand holding on the first week or two with that employee, or how does
First year.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we're involved the entire time. I literally loan them one of my assistants for a week to make sure their assistant is up to speed. We only get talent who's experienced, 3 to 10 years. Sure. They know what title is. They know what escrow is. We're not teaching them anything with a whiteboard.
Right.
They may or may not know our state-specific forms, and so we're getting in there, polishing that up. But we only place the finest talent.
I love that. And it's just in the state of Washington, Curly, or
nationwide?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I have clients all over the U.S.
I love that. Any parting words either for buyers, sellers, the industry, the market, anything that you want to pass on?
I want to leave this to some of my agents who are a little discouraged right now. We just did a big seminar this week, and I had one of my good friends, Anton Stetner, who runs a YouTube channel as well.
Sure.
He came in, and Anton showed us a bunch of charts, and what his opinion is that, you know what, 2008 downturn lasted about 4 years.
Got it.
Guess what? We're kind of there.
Yeah.
And he's very optimistic that next year and the year after is going to start looking very good in our industry.
Sure.
And you know what? I've decided to embrace that.
Love that.
So I'm hopeful that this is the last year of the downturn with real estate. And if that's the case, new agents or seasoned agents, it's time
just
to
be ready.
Get going.
Yep.
Make your calls, build your pipeline, because
get your VAs in place.
The tide is about to rise.
I love that. Well, that's great for your real estate business.
We're hoping Anton's right.
Great for your White Cliffs hiring as well. And well, you've been a fantastic guest. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.